Do you ever ask yourself the questions? How well are you dealing with isolation, loneliness, and depression during the pandemic? Well, I think I'm accustomed to it. I mean, I've had years and years of people who have got in my way and prevented me from being who I am. Yeah, I chalk it off to jealous females. They just can't deal with the fact that I might do something with my life. But during these times, other than hanging out and waiting for the next day, I travel in my sleep. I've always traveled in my sleep. So I recently traveled to the Huron, to the cusp. And, well, as you all pretty much do know, with your hidden history books and all that bullshit, the Huron were once buried, primarily 400,000, buried in Rochester, New York, Park Avenue area. It's where they were all. It was a huge graveyard. And then some nitwit twit had a brighter idea, and she, them, her, women, decided to have all those graves dug up and the bodies disposed of so they could build big-ass mansions there, honoring them, they said, for taking their land when they didn't even know the true story behind it. So somewhere out there's a painting that represents the truth about the Huron. It's like a gold plate and a set of eyes on it, because they were laid down by the Romans. But the Huron were a very unique and distinct people. The Huron carried weight and strength, and the Huron had future vision, and they could see things in the future out 50, 100, 200,000 years. 50 years, 100 years, 200 years, 1,000 years. Their sight was incredible in what they could see, and their visions, their future visions, were always true and accurate. The only thing that they didn't have knowledge of was when would it happen. And so they would, when the visions came through and they grew large as the sky, almost like a large TV screen sitting out in the middle of the sky, and it was a play-by-play of what was about to occur. They would pick their people up from the location where they were, and they would just move to another location, to a safer place, away from the vision. And they always believed that it was warnings from the earth. And at some point, they decided not to move, to confront the visions. And when the visions grew larger than life in front of them, they went to the visions and they walked right past it, and there was nothing there. And they knew at some point the visions would come true, but they didn't know when it would happen. And so people began to work with them because almost like catastrophic events that affect a large groupings of people, other people wanted to have that knowledge before it happened to protect their people. And so these people came down from north, and they were the Algonquin people, the woodland tribe type people. And they were able to help with timelines of when these events would occur. And there were people that helped with making the visions more noticeable. So there were drawings, there were other things that represented the future vision, to be cognizant of those things when they start showing up. When those things start showing up, that means you're getting closer and closer to the catastrophic event that is about to occur. And so, after they developed a way to warn the people, and they started tracking the timelines, they worked on protecting their people. And in the event that this happens, they would do this. And if, this happens, they would do that. Like a plan, a safety plan. And so the Huron, the information somehow gets shared. And it reached a point of sharing with people that it should have never been shared with. And the Romans did a sneak attack on the Huron, thinking that they could stop the visions, stop what they were doing, because the visions were true visions, true to life visions. And so they killed the Huron. And the senseless kill, so they could go, much like people that kill wolves, they just want the bragging rights. Well, the Romans just wanted the bragging rights. That they killed the Huron, and they wanted those numbers up high. So when they returned to their people, they would have not only the numbers, but they could, anybody that wanted to go and verify the kill, if they wanted to make the trip, they would know where to find them. And so the women and the children, not all of them were killed. And the ones that were spared ended up working and organizing, forced to touch the dead. And, boys had to carry and line up by size so they could count the dead. And on the first count up, they counted 2 small children as one person, and they had to recount them. And then when the numbers were up like 399,000, the Romans wanted their numbers over 400,000, so they killed a few of them just to make sure that the numbers were over the 400,000 mark. And when they stood at the cusp, looking at what they had done and what they had accomplished together, and having their speech with 400,000 Huron laying at our feet. These people came up behind them, people they hadn't seen before, but the Romans viewed gold as a welcoming sign, and these people carried a lot of gold with them on their person. So from a distance, it was like people, golden people coming up behind them. And so they stood next to them, and they, wow, look at all these people that are dead here. And then, they pat them on the back, pat the Romans on the back, like, good job, good job. And then they started to laugh. And they laughed, and they laughed, and they laughed, and before you know it, they were all laughing. The Sioux and the Romans were laughing. And then while they were in the laughing stage at what they had done, Sioux warriors came up behind them, and one by one, they cut their fucking throats for what they had done to the Huron. Because the Huron was the center of the house. And so somewhere you're going to find Roman, unless they dug them all up and discarded them, you will find Romans buried on this land with their fucking heads sliced off for laughing at the senseless kill, laying people down, women, children, people that were minding their own business. And that's why in the United States, it's so entertaining to lay other people down. It's part of the woodwork here in the United States. So, all I can say is I sure the fuck hope at some point in time karma comes back around. But until then, it's like just another day of hanging out. Yep, dug up all those bodies just to build all these fucking mansions so they could all live in them. And in their sick little twisted heads, they really did believe that the houses that were created for them to live in were gifts. And they were honoring these people that they knew nothing about. It's a sick world we live in. But that's how I curve my loneliness, my depression, my isolation from the world. I travel. I pick up knowledge. And at some point, I hope to pick up some knowledge that I can use, like weaponry.